Good morning, everybody. How are you? Thursday, the 19th of November. It's the morning. It's quite dark today, though, but not as damp as it has been, so that's nice. Hope you're doing all right. Well, today is a barn owl in coloured pencils, and I have got a loose sketching out of our little creature. Now, a few people were asking me about the sort of coloured pencils that you can use. So I'm going to post a couple of links that are available on our online shop. They're actually watercolor pencils, but they do color really. Good morning, Rosemary. They do color really, really nicely. So it's very much dependent on what you're after. Now, there is another one, and I don't think I've put them on our Shop Happy site yet. The tin looks almost identical, but they are water resistant. So here we go, look. That is the water soluble. That is the water resistant. The two links I put up are water soluble because they're probably, if you don't do a lot of a lot of coloured pencil work, you might find that watercolour pencils is quite useful because then you can use them as watercolour pencils or colouring pencils, whereas the wax-based colouring crayons you can only use as colouring crayons, but they are lovely. They're really nice to use. So it does depend, but just be careful. I think the only difference in design is the water resistant has got a white background, the water soluble has a red background, and very tiny writing at the bottom. So just be careful. I think I'll use coloured watercolour pencils today, and as usual you'll have 10-15 minutes to sketch out or trace. I've got the barn owl, and I've just given myself a few ideas, but I have had lots of requests from students to say that they'd love to do this lesson as a watercolour or acrylics class at some point in the future, which will be next year. Oh, let's put the... I didn't put the bird song on. There we go. So this is my normal sketchbook that I'm running very low on. I need to top up. I've been trying to find the other Caran d'Ache tins, but maybe I didn't put them in on the shop. They certainly don't look like they're there at the moment. I will add them though. I think it's because they look very similar to the others that I've only put water soluble ones on, so as to try not to confuse. But I should add them while we're still in lockdown, really. Is it just me and you today, Rosemary, so far? So a little bit of a sketch, just the main areas of interest, really. Oh, hello, Janice. Hope you're doing all right. So we look about layering pencils, because unless you've got like 72 colours, you're never going to get exactly the right colour that you want. So we'll look at blending and layering and how you can do that. So when you have drawn, if you just let me know you've drawn, then at least I know. But I will be starting no later than 1/4 past, just so we can get it done. But this actual photograph is from a much bigger photograph of a tree. But you know, I actually just like it. I love the greens and browns in it as well. So I want to try and put that in if at all possible. Oh, you know what? I haven't sketched that tree behind, have I? There's another tree that's sort of coming up there as well. So we've got the branch that the owl is on. There is a tree slightly behind it, but in between those two is another branch. Because obviously the owl's sort of creamy white. So if your paper's creamy white, you don't have to do a huge amount with that. But what you do what you do need to do is to ensure that everything else is darker around it, and that's what we'll be looking at today as well. I've got a busy day today. I've got a class this morning, obviously this one. Then we're doing hands this afternoon in watercolour, and tonight is art history. So it's a long old day. Then I've got 2 classes Friday, but I am out of here for the weekend. But I'll be at home doing some pet portrait commissions. I've got one that's got 4 dogs. So that's a lot of dogs. Bum, 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 bum. Good morning, Rosemary. I'm on Discord now. Okay, that's cool. It's a nip in the air today, don't you think? There's just a little bit nippish. Oh, is it? It's not raining in the town centre. Oh, do you know what? Yes, it's just starting. Good. What did we do? Oh, yes, the drawing, yes. Yeah, I think it's like, I mean, I've started dating the fronts of my sketchbooks roughly. I haven't put anything in here, but I'll have to go back and look, because the first sketch in here is the blue tit on a tap. And I'll have to look back to see when I did that, but I think that was 22nd of July. So a sketchbook lasts me about 4 or 5 months. Right, so I've got my selection of pencil crayons here, which are watercolour based, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I've got the student ones, which is still good quality actually for Caran d'Ache is always good quality. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, they're nice as well. Oh, do you know what? I'm just going to sharpen my dark green because I need that one. I will do. Ah, okay. Well, do you know what? I think I'll sharpen my light green one. I should have sharpened all of these, but they look sharp enough. But I want a longer point, and since I've got a lovely long point sharpener, I'm going to use it. We can't get any more of these in at the moment. The Derwent are out of stock, and our suppliers are out of stock. So the long point part, you know, the super point sharpeners that I use is they're out of stock. But I'm trying to order them in as often as I can, or as soon as I can. Because what I want to do is I'm going to use the light green on the very lightly behind the owl for the wood. So I'll do a light green, and then I want to do a darker green over the top. So I've got my pencil on its side. So I don't know what a lot of these colours, the pencils don't actually have the colour on them, so it's hard to know. But this is sort of a light green, a sap green, or a grass green, or a light green. There's only two greens. Yeah, that'll be a lighter one. Because the background is going to be a darker green, but I just want to build up. So I'm doing this in a sort of curvy shape, because I don't want to get rid of my pencil lines totally. I'm not going to be using any water because I'm going to pretend these aren't water soluble. Oh, Kathy's cooking bacon. Well, this is it. I'm the same with the drawing classes. You know, I know I need to sharpen them, and I think they are sharp, but then I pick them up and then I realise that they're not. I'm actually going to do all of the trees bits in this brown, but I'm going to do each branch separately or individually, so it works a little bit better. But once I've got this green, well, it's I don't know, it is a grass green, but I do want to also draw in, because when you work with pencils, it's a bit like working in watercolor or coloring pencils. You need or drawing. It's all about layers, because there are a few leaves on this branch that the owl is the only bit that the owl is on has leaves. So what we're doing, you see, although the picture is about the owl, we're not only just setting the scene, we're helping the owl look creamy, because I'm trying to obliterate all of the white paper in the picture. Because there's, you see that background, you know, they're like the background sky. It's interesting. On my colour copy, it's more of a teal, whereas in the real digital version, it's sort of like a dull green. But I can work my way through that, no problem, because it'll be creating lights and darks. But obviously, because this is art for the anxious, I don't want to make it too stressful. I've got quite a few new people booked on for the Saturday masterclass next Saturday, the 28th. I can show you the picture. So this is what we're working on, but in A3 on the masterclass. Nice little cottage, mountains, bit of dry brush, nice big sky. It is, isn't it? And it's in watercolour. So I've done the lightish green, and I am going to sketch the leaves in this colour as well. No, I haven't drawn them. I haven't drawn them. will press down a little bit harder. So there's one there. These are compound leaves. So what I'm trying to do is I'm drawing the stem of the leaf and then just doing a little bit of a wiggle to get the shape, the full shape. So I'm trying, what I don't want to do when I work with coloured pencils is I don't want to draw an outline and fill it in, because sometimes that looks, well, like you draw an outline and you filled it in, really. You know, it's I try to do as much with just the pencil as I can. And then there's another one that's sort of there. Do the one that's behind him there. So I'll just do a little cluster of 3 leaves. I think there are 4. There's sort of 3 in the... Oh, I don't know, does it look better? I ought to do it as it is. Hello, Janet. All I've done is used a light green Janet to shade in the direction of the tail. No. There's sort of like a tiny little line at the bottom of his tail. There's a little bit of a line where it's light against that branch that he's sitting on right at the bottom, but really there's not a huge amount. I know it looks weird without a tail. I've left a little bit of an area light in the hope that it's going to be a tail of some sort. So I'm just using my pencil on its side to darken the underside of each branch, I suppose. I'm not going to do it really with the tree, although that's dark on the right side. Because as we said earlier, it's about building up the colours. Fortunately, the owl itself is largely white paper. Well, yeah, I have almost coloured the whole page. I'm just gonna sharpen this. I've got a lovely, I think it's cerulean blue in this set. I can't work out what colour it is because I say none of them have got names. But it's a gorgeous colour that I want to put down in between, and this will help you see where I've put everything else. I am going to put green on top of this, I don't want it to look like sky. Basically what I want to try and do, if at all possible, is sort of spend an hour on the background and then an hour on the owl. I think that's doable. So this is this blue colour. I can't give you any more information than that. It's sort of a cerulean or a sort of intense colour even, maybe. So for this background bit, I'm doing it more in a circular motion, because your pencil strokes do get seen. So sometimes it's good just to vary them up. So for the branch bit, it's nice to have them following the contours of the branch, but because this is sort of background foliage and stuff, well, it's, you see, I've got two blues in this set. I've got like a really pale sky blue, and then I've got this darker blue, but it's still a greeny blue. In their other sets, you see, it's normally a ultramarine. But I'm still going to use, with this, I'm going to put a darker green over the back of it at the same time. So because we're layering it, it doesn't really matter. So I've used a darker blue and a darker green to start with. I'm not doing any blending other than just overlaying. For purposes of this lesson, no, but this is where it's always going to be difficult with coloured pencils unless I force everyone to buy exactly the same set. A dark blue and a dark green overlaid. So I'll do the blue first and then the green over the top. So basically what I'm going to say is, for the purposes of the video, I'll talk about overlaying, which is what I'm doing now, where I'm putting one colour over the top of another. And when I talk about blending, I'll be using a white pencil or something to visibly blend the colours together. That makes sense? So I'll say overlay or blend. Now, they're not necessarily the right art techniques or the right names for these techniques. However, it's the best way I can try to get it to make sense. And I'll probably use another colour over the top of that as well. Yeah, I think I need to darken that a little bit, do I? This is that was my contemplating growl, whether I darken the background or darken the trees, because obviously that's going to have an overlay of brown. Let me see. So let me try a bit of white to blend and soften some of those colours. So this is just a white pencil crayon in the set. You can buy, for non-watercolour pencils, you can buy blending pencils, but I don't think I need it for this, because these are watercolour pencils. I could use water, but I don't want to because I'm in sketchbook mode. So the white will work as a blender. You see, most of the oil or wax based pencil crayons when you buy a blender, it looks white, but it's actually clear because it's not fully transparent. And it's sort of like this with this one. But you can see the blue in mine is a lot stronger than the green. So that means that it's always going to have a blue tint. I'm sure if I'd have put the green down first, it would give me more of a green tint than a blue tint. But because this is background, I'm not worrying too much. So I'm just rubbing the white pencil over the top. Maybe I should have a different piece of paper underneath this one. There. Just to tone some of the colours together so it's less of a mishmash. Because it could be sky, it could be leaves, it could be anything. But, you know, the owl is the main thing in this picture, isn't it? But to get there, we've got to do all sorts of... Sorry for lunging, I'm just... for some reason, I've decided to put my pencil sharpener at the edge of a table that's nowhere near where I am, so I'm having to lean forward every time I want to use it. Okay. So that's blue and green overlay. I could sort of create some leaf shapes just by varying the pressure with this dark green. Start off thin, get thicker. Start off thin, get thicker, get thinner again, and it just indicates the idea of leaves without actually having the bother of leaves. I've started binge watching The Crown. I haven't seen any of it, so I only started it last night. I didn't know anything about anything really about the royal family. I'm finding it very interesting to start with. I don't think it's ever been disputed for the whole 4 series. So I don't know. I don't know where they've got all their information from about certain things, but I just find it interesting. I think obviously with something like that, the historical data is accurate, but obviously conversations, yeah, the personal life. No, that's true, because the majority, obviously the Queen and Prince Philip are still living, and Charles. I mean, it starts with the King, so it starts before Elizabeth becomes the Queen, and then I've just got to the point where he's died, and she's found out while she was away that she's now Queen. What I find really comforting, and I'm sure it is true, because you know, I was saying I watched that Nothing Like a Dame with Maggie Smith and Judi Dench and all of that in, because what is clear is all of these, even these people that have been doing these jobs for 50 years or more, Judi Dench was saying that every film is scary. Maggie Smith said exactly the same thing. They are scared and nervous for every single film that they make. And it's surprising, because you wouldn't think people with such a high calibre and an amount of films under their belt would still get nervous, but they say every film set is different, everything. So it's not like when you walk on the same stage, or you know, you can get comfortable, can't you? I suppose. Like with me sitting here, I'm fine teaching this class because I'm in my own environment. But if I'm then having to go to a WI group in Nottingham, I'm nervous, because it's not only the lesson itself might be fine, but the response, the people, the environment, it's all additionally scary. And also it seemed that the Queen was starting to, before she was the Queen, trying to work out the protocols and all of that. So it's very interesting so far. I've only watched two episodes. and I'm going to find it through. And it's my sort of era, isn't it? 30s, 40s. So 52, wasn't it? She became queen. Coronation, something like that. Yes. You see, I'm like that when with my art history lectures. A few people say to me, "Oh, I can see you're not academic," and I don't mean that in a bad way. But what they mean is that most art historians have never picked up a paintbrush in their life. I'm just using a bit of brown over the top of this green, and they all want to talk about highfalutin things, but a lot of time with artists, we don't. You know, most artists don't have underlying themes or you know it yeah, I'm painting things A because somebody's asked me to, or B because I like the subject. And if I'm using a lot of one colour, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm using it because I've got a certain emotion that I want to portray. It might be because I've got a lot of colour on that palette that I need to use up before it dries. um, and we do try different styles. I'll never forget watching um, Fake or Fortune once, and the guy, is it Philip? Hello, Jackie. Um, Said that oh, you can tell this isn't his work because it's not his normal style. And I thought, well, that's not true. How do you know? Because as an artist, you want to try lots of different ways of doing things. So, oh, by the way, this is a darkish brown, sort of a burnt umber, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, because I don't know the colours because they're not listed. And then I'll probably put black on top of this as well for the tree to start to get the darks and the lights, because again we want it to feel like there's depth in here. And oh, you smell nice.
I've had a wash.
Oh, well, that'll be it then. You smell clean.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. There was a big debate on one of these art groups that I belong to. There's always some sort of debate going on with them, but they were asking about, who thinks tracing is cheating. And obviously there's a huge mix of people will say, oh yes, tracing is definitely cheating, you need to do it yourself. And I actually said to them, but the viewer that tracing is cheating is only a modern thought, because right the way through from the 1400s to the Victorian period and beyond, it was actively encouraged that if you wanted to learn to paint like a certain artist, you copied their style, and the best way to do that was tracing. Um, obviously, they could all draw. They all they all had the ability to draw well. They were all trained. But when you've got a commission that you've got to hurry up and get done, exactly like today, you're going to find the easiest and quickest means possible to get that done. And I said, I allow my students to trace in a painting class, but not in a drawing class, because they're here to learn the techniques about painting in the painting class, and I don't want them to get stressed out by not getting the drawing right in the drawing class. And someone said, oh, I think that in proper paintings, like commissions and things, you shouldn't trace, because tracing is what non-artists can do. And I said, I could give you a whole class of 30 people the same tracing, but they'd all paint totally differently, because in some people's artwork it wouldn't even look like the same drawing, because they've added extra bits or changed extra bits. I don't know where this idea comes from, or who decided suddenly that tracing a basic outline was so wrong. Really interesting, because it's come from somewhere.
I think art teachers at school.
I think it is art teachers, yeah.
Who wanted to encourage people to use their eyes, but they've cracked down on it too much, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, because obviously in my drawing class I won't allow tracing, because I want to teach you the techniques of drawing, which I think, well intentioned, I could say, oh, no, tracing is not allowed, that's cheating. But if I keep saying that, then it becomes almost enshrined in some sort of law, and it actually isn't. I don't mean that. I mean tracing in a drawing class is cheating, because you're not learning the techniques. So maybe it's something like that. I don't know. It's but I think it could be academics and all sorts of things as well. Yeah. Well, when you're learning how to draw, you want to find easy remedies and easy ways of creating it. And it's all very well me saying just look at the shapes if I'm not going to tell you what the shapes are. But when you're tracing it, you will also find the shapes for yourself. I remember I had a student quite a long time ago who really had difficulty in drawing figures, human figures. And what we did, she said, I can't get the proportions. So I made, do you remember using like the split pins on joints to make little puppets and marionettes and that kind of thing? I actually made 2 of those for her to pose and draw around. And, she only needed to do that about 10 to 15 times before she started to get the idea of proportion in her head to fit the page that she was working on. So, while she was drawing around something, it was also creating other things in her mind to build the learning on there. So I think it's a good thing. Yeah. Well, we say this, and Janet can vouch for this in art history. I will talk about it, but I always ask for people's opinions first. And it's interesting. We'll say, has learning the history about the painting changed your opinion on it, or do you still like it for what it is, or does it really not matter at all? I need to sign 2 CDs.
You need to sign 2 of them.
So leave the CDs.
That's the easiest one.
I know. So I thought I'd quickly get in. Sorry.
Well, I'll leave it open.
that's me, yeah.
Not open, but there. Yes.
So I'm slowly building up with the colours. I mean, you might not think it's slowly, but this is slow for me. But I'll use a bit of black. Yeah, if you treat each part of each section or each branch separately, it does make a difference. Now, I was just naughty and went down the way instead of across, and now all I can see is that line, and I'm annoyed with myself. I might stick a bit more green over the top of this. We've got scaffolders in again today. Unfortunately, it's all on the back, so it's only really the bathroom window here that I think is really affected. No, we can't get into the bathroom anyway because I've got all this stuff there. So, might use a bit of dark green as well in here, or I could go even darker. So obviously, when you're working with coloured pencils, it's all about pressure as well. So it's almost the same as when you're using drawing pencils. The more you press, the darker the colour, because you're allowing more of it to go onto the paper. So I need to go round our little owl. Yeah. Well, what I'm doing, and that's why I've said with this is obviously is if I am going too fast, or like with Janet because she couldn't get here for time because she was delayed. You know, I do all of this, but you all know you can watch it later. But obviously, what we're doing now is nothing new. And then when we move on to the owl, you can do a bit of that because we haven't got to wait for colours to dry, have we, with this? So when I say, oh, right after coffee break, we'll have a go with the owl. Then you can have a go with the owl and still fiddle afterwards. Anyway, what do you say, Janet? I think what you like, and no amount of in-depth deconstruction will change how you feel about a particular painting. I absolutely agree with you. There are certain things that have changed my perception of a painting, but it hasn't necessarily changed whether I like it more or not. You know, I can there might be a painting that I'm not keen on, but when I've studied how it was painted and all the meaning behind it, I've gone, oh, you know what, that's quite nice. However, I still wouldn't have it on my wall. And I think you're right, Janet. There, yeah, you know, you can change your view on its technique or about the artist behind it, but it may not actually. No, I don't think it should change your view on whether you like the picture or not. So yeah, I agree, absolutely.
Are these fine? I've got somebody coming to collect some. So I'm putting them behind now.
Now you see, I never used to like Van Gogh's stuff, but he was so ahead of his time. It is fascinating to look at his work and look at his techniques behind it. I still wouldn't have sort of the potato eaters on my wall or whatever. I can appreciate it, but I don't want it. And I think sometimes we feel that we have to like things that other people like. It's the same as abstract art. I've done a lot with art history, obviously, over the years, and these Thursday evening art history talks that I've done over this last 6 months, we've been looking at. I'm just having to look through the book to remind myself. Bauhaus, Dadaism, Surrealism, Modernism, and we're looking at minimalism tonight. Now, I didn't like Dadaism, but I loved Bauhaus. In fact, the Bauhaus of the 1920s is still what we would class as really top of the range modern furnishings today, like IKEA. Couldn't stand Dadaism, couldn't stand Surrealism, and not really bothered about modernism. However, I really love minimalism, and I didn't think I did. Um, um, in some areas, minimalism is like where you've just like got mirror cubed chairs or blocks of color or just blank colored canvases, but in like a black canvas with slightly lighter black patterns on it or something. Or you've got really vibrant, huge wall paintings in primary colours that bring out certain aspects of it. Um, and that's what I like from it. And I really didn't know. I mean, again, I may not have it on my wall, but I really like this particular artist. I can't remember his name. I'll remember him for tonight though. But I do. I think it's the same as sometimes it's like people, isn't it? Art. You know, you form an opinion of a person in the same way as you form an opinion of a painting, and sometimes through discussing with that person, it does change your opinion of them slightly, and you warm to it a little bit more. You may not have them round for tea, but you wouldn't like be nasty about them behind the back or something. Or learning about the painting more might reaffirm what you thought in the first place, and you go, "Yeah, I knew I didn't like them." So it's all it is very personal, and I don't like being told that I should like this because it's by so and so, because each artist was basically just some bloke painting in a different way, that's now largely no longer with us. Um, why should I like that painting, and why is a fake version of this a lot lower in value than the real version when you can't tell the difference? Well, no, exactly, and I think knowing what you like, there are certain abstracts that I love. I've actually got an abstract. I've got two abstracts in my house actually, originals. I can't paint it myself, so I can appreciate it on a slightly different level, because I can't do it. Um, Whereas, there are very few landscapes or things that I would buy as a painting unless I really like the artist and wanted to support them. Because I know, to be fair, I can do it myself. Um, but I've got glass, I've got pottery, all from local artists that I really, really like. But I also like the artist, so I want to support them. So there's a lot of different ways you can view all of this. I think if I met an artist at a craft fair, say, and I didn't like them, chances are I wouldn't buy their work. Yeah, yeah. Even if it was a famous art, if I let's say Monet was still alive, if I met Monet and he was an arrogant, horrible, rude man, which by the way he wasn't, he was a lovely guy. Um, from all in purposes, there were other impressionist artists that weren't very nice. Um, I whether it was Monet or not, I wouldn't buy it if I didn't like them. I'm gonna have to build this layer up a little bit more. Do you know the best thing with Van Gogh, the best portrayal and thing I've ever seen was a Doctor Who episode, which I know sounds a little bit odd, but it was such a emotional. I'm just adding a bit more brown on some of this. I think I'm gonna have to go back with some green. It was such an emotional program, um, but he was able to go back in time. Well, bring Vincent to the future to listen to what they were saying about him at the Van Gogh Museum, kind of thing, and that made me cry. That really made me cry. It was so beautiful, and really sympathetic about his mental health and all of this. Because I mean, he was a very troubled man, but very aware of his own troubles. That he would, he put himself in the asylum, hated by all of his villages. He went away for a bit, and then when he came back, there was a petition from his village to get him out. I mean, how horrible must that make you feel? That the people you thought were your neighbours actually don't want you. So I think he is quite misunderstood, and he was ahead of his time in many ways. Um, I still wouldn't have his paintings on the wall, but I can appreciate his struggles as an artist. But what I have found from lecturing art history across, you know, all the different time periods is that most artists fit into certain categories. To be a great artist, you tend to have to be. I can remember. I think we discussed it at the time, Janice, the Doctor Who. Um, it was so beautiful. But that most artists are obsessive about some or a lot of things. They're also passionate, but that passion comes out in lots of weird ways, either sexually, or anger, or frustration, or depression, or they use this sexual frustration in inappropriate ways. It's all very, you could, if you wrote a checklist of certain behaviour patterns, they're obsessive, but sometimes it might be colour, but they're also addictive. They have addictive personalities, whether it be to alcohol, drugs, or women, or what have you. Um, it's really fascinating to see this checklist that um, that is available in your head, um, to know what artists are really like. I'm adding a bit of yellow on this. I don't know why, I just feel the need. But I think it's really interesting. I find learning about artists really interesting. I do. Yes. See, I went off Rembrandt after lecturing about him. Don't like Rembrandt at all. Caravaggio, I had a bit of empathy for. Um, so I find it really interesting. I do. Am I flogging a dead horse with this? Now the trouble is, look, my background is the wrong colour totally compared to the rest of the picture. So maybe I'll put a bit of brown over this. I did toy with that idea. I'm doing this, and then I'm going to go and put the kettle on because Jackie's in and she'll want a cup of tea as well. I need to mute this because if I keep this the colour that it is, the camera's obviously picking it out a little bit more than it is in real life, but I do need to dull it down. Oh, absolutely, and this is where it gets so difficult with stuff like this, because you've got the hint of branches crossing through, but I do want to stick to the fact that we are going to look at the owl next. I'm just trying to tie it all together and so it's not as distant. I need to do something with that tree bit there. I don't know what. I think it's got. It's because it's got no modelling to it. I'm going to put the kettle on. Stop it, Barry. Stop it. But this would be really interesting if I do, and I almost certainly will do this class in acrylics and maybe watercolour over the next 12 to 18 months. And it would be really interesting to see how it looks as an acrylic painting or as a watercolour, because it will bring out different aspects of this scene, won't it, of the owl. Right, I'm putting the kettle on, and I need to restart the bird song. The tree trunks were a bright green first, Janet. Like, if you can see on my pencil crayons, it was the lightest green I did first. But I don't think I put enough of that on. I might green them up a bit more as we go through this. But basically what I think I'll do, I'm going to put the kettle on, make Jackie and myself a cup of tea, because I'm nice like that. And then we'll come back, we'll work on the owl, and then whilst generally I'm a bit faster than you, aren't I? I think it's safe to say. So while I'm being a bit faster than you, I might stick a bit more green on these branches. I don't know. But kettle time first.
have to clean it a bit, I think, because it's a bit shop
I
soiled.
think
I think I got it from the SAA. The
No.
price marks on it is the same as on Amazon. Not that I looked at it because I thought, to be honest with you, if it's a lot less on Amazon, let's just get shot. What? Oh, I'm just talking about my thing that I'm selling. I'm not just selling in the shop.
That's good. You don't get asked for that at all. There was a craze for that. It's the same as what was I trying to think of the other day? Oh yeah, one of the queries is about watercolour brushes, watercolour brush pens. The Aquash is one, isn't it? The Lyra, they're watercolour brush pens, aren't they?
No, I don't know.
Well, aren't they the Lyra Aqua?
Acrylic is watercolour brush pen.
I'm sure the Lyra is the Lyra Aqua. So, before I get back into the lesson, this person I've got the inquiry about watercolour brushes, but it's on my own Facebook message.
Right.
And I've got to meet her halfway, but that'll have to be tomorrow because I'm here till 9 o'clock tonight.
I don't really know what it means, because you know that company that we don't like, they do something that's called that. But I don't know what their product actually is without seeing it.
This
so I
is
don't
a
know how it
query
compares
on
to. See what I mean? The one in the with the Z.
watercolour
in it,
pens.
Yeah, the one with the Z. Does
Yeah,
it?
but Winter and Newton do. But have we got any watercolour pens?
Oh, the markers.
Yeah. And I think that's what I think the Lyra is, a watercolour marker, but brush, because it's brush and.
Well, it's water soluble, but I don't know whether they.
But aren't they called Lyra Aqua? Oh, where is it? I haven't got it here now. Must have put it away. Have a look on the box for me.
I think she might have to do her own research on what the different ones are, because I don't know.
Just
what
wants
she
watercolour pens.
But I think that's.
But the aqua one is, but I don't think they're going to be good enough quality because her work's like really amazing.
Yeah, she probably want the markers. I don't know whether I don't know. We've got a tin of that at the minute.
We might have a few loose.
Okay.
Do we have biscuits?
Yes.
Excellent. Right, I think we're going to start on the owl. The owl. Ooh. Jackie's like got a. Jackie's my new best friend.
Well, who was your best friend before?
Well, you were yesterday when you bought those biscuits. You keep it up, and you'll stay in my best friend good books forever. I'll let you decide to open. They're your biscuits. I just eat most of them.
Want those in a bit? Yeah.
Betwixt classes for those.
For a
Oh,
change.
did you see a thing? I haven't.
I haven't got something. Was it something you've seen on TikTok with the young people down?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know what you're doing.
Broken it. I can't get it to work. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
I think you would put it in a drink.
What first? I'll just eat it. I'm just eating a biscuit and then I'll do the owl. I'll do his eyes.
Thank you for chopping up my bubble wrap.
It's a pleasure.
If anybody wants to get me anything for Christmas, I can just get me bubble wrap.
I've got a massive bag of bubble wrap I've got to bring in. That's us.
Hello, the artery. Okay, I'll be with you in a sec. Bye.
Yeah, I'm actually doing the eyes in black and I'm leaving the light area white. And I might add a few other bits on, but it's really tricky when you're working with doing a sort of an animal, because you obviously want them to stand out from their background, but then do you outline, which I'm doing now, which I might regret. There is a grey in my set, which is quite nice, which I might use. A little. I'm doing it softly in the black. Yeah, you see, I might switch to this grey colour, because he's got the beak line is almost a line in grey down the centre of his beak. It's like it's triangular. This is quite a blue grey, which is going to be perfect for his feathers. I might do that bit while I've got this grey. Got a bit of a grey head as well, hasn't he? Now I might do this in little short swirly strokes. Because I'm not going to try doing fur, feathers, you know, all of that kind of thing. If I do it on his body underneath his neck, it's just going to be little short strokes that could look like feathers, but if they don't, then I'm not going to worry too much, because he's so far away, isn't he? It's going to be really tricky to try and get it looking exactly as you want it. Beautiful colours of creams and a bit darker under his beautiful chin, like a beard. Yeah, it's what the beardy frill or the actual feathers, because it is directly under. I might switch from this blue grey to a bit of black once I've marked on his markings. Yeah, the silvery grey, bluey grey. I'm sure some people will be doing this in it not in coloured pencil as well. I bet some watching either now or catch up will be doing it in a different medium. I know. I know. We are. It's funny. We are actually busier while we're shut than we are when we're open. It's weird. You know, the phone. Well, you know, Rosemary, how often the phone goes, because it's the same as your phone at home, and you always don't know whether it's your phone or my phone. Well, usually the only people that call here are people asking me to pay them for invoices. We don't get very many customer calls, but we're getting more and more now. We had a plethora of orders come through overnight with either my paintings from Artfest, my CD, my Christmas CD, Bo Norton Crooning at Christmas, £5, and some shop orders. I mean, financially, we're not as busy as we were before lockdown, but
brain fog, very much.
Yeah, in terms of frantic, yes, more so. Which is nice that people are choosing us. It's for us actually. What's interesting is we've actually, for the first time since Hobbycraft opened, we've actually got a level playing field, haven't we? Because they're not allowed to open, and they're on click and collect. We're on click and collect. So I think people are deciding to choose to support a small shop, which is really, really nice. So thank you very much. Yeah, mind you, we've all got the support again. Those of us that had the financial support last time. There are more grants on the way, so you know, No. Well, they announced that, didn't they? After everybody had already started to make, yeah. Is he redundant now? See, I said I wasn't going to do the trees. No, I did. I said I'd fiddle, didn't I? I said, while I'm doing a little bit extra, I'll do a little bit more while you're doing the grey bits of old Hooter. I'm cutting in a little bit with the black from the tree, so it gives it this side a bit more of an outline, so it looks kind of fluffy. Are owls fluffy? Do you know, I still can't get over, I watched a video of an owl walking. How long their legs are. I had no idea. And it's almost like they like lift up their petty skirts and march forward. Like the legs are like, it's like a human.
Petticoats, not pettiskirts.
Petticoats, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. They are the well, what I noticed, and I've coloured in over this, is his claws are so big that they don't wrap around this branch, they stick out in front of it. Yeah, you can just about. So there's sort of like one there, and then there's one underneath, and then there's another one. Oh, so before I do my tonight's class, I'm going to head into the main marketplace of the town centre and do a live stream of the new Christmas projection on the marketplace wall from the old town page, because it looks absolutely beautiful, and it's on every night from about 4:45 till 9:30, something like that. And it's a wonderful big animated projection on the Castle Key wall of Marketplace, you know, the big fancy stone bit opposite Timpson's and Abraxas. It looks amazing. It started last night, but obviously I wasn't working last night, so I was at home, but a friend was there. Right, now here's a mixture of oranges, browns and yellows. So again, we'll start with the yellows. His face is far more cream. I'm just dunking a biscuit. A little bit of yellow. It may not show up much. So everywhere that's orange I am doing yellow, but there is a bit of creamy colour on his chest. Yeah, really pale. As I say, you can just about make it out on the camera. I really don't do much with coloured pencils in classes, do I? I should do.
I love coloured pencils.
Yeah, you do, and you do some beautiful coloured pencils, Jackie.
I'll teach you if you like.
Everywhere is brown.
I said I'll teach you if you like.
Don't make me fire you again this week. She takes the mickey out of me, Rosemary, all the time. I don't do anything to deserve it. I'll do nothing to deserve it. Yeah, I'm leaving some of. Oh, I want to put that back where the black belongs there. Obviously, I want to keep some of his white face white. I've done a bit of his beak, and there's a hint on his left. Well, as we look at him, left and sort of around his beard and on his chest, there's sort of orangey bits. If I do a quick reference image picture, I can actually make the owl bigger. Look at that. Well, there's me fiddling with it to make the owl big anyway. Looks just like my picture. You won't know whether you're looking at the photograph or my artwork, you know. So you can see there's quite a few creamy bits in that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of orange. Yeah, and it's very orangey brown around his eyes. And going down into his beak area. And again, little short strokes. I mean, the thing is, clearly, I nearly caught myself out then, because I was going to say we don't want him to stand out. We want him to stand out from the background. However, they're camouflaged. So technically, if your owl blends in with your background, you've got the colours right, you know? Mine ain't white. Yeah. No, but once we do this, we'll know whether I need to darken my trees, and I think I will need to darken the trees to just bring him out a little bit more than he is. Orange. And I might use a tiny, tiny, weeny bit of brown, but not much. What a nice... yeah, if you've got a sort of biscuity fawn colour, that would work really, really well. Gives it a nice glow, that yellow, though, doesn't it? Brightens him up a little bit. See, I like him, the tone that I've got him. But I'm going to have to definitely do some more work behind. Oh, I did say I'd add a bit more green on some of these trees. yeah, I think if I was doing this as a, well, no, if I was, excuse me, if I was doing this as acrylic, I'd definitely be doing this in the same way. I'd do the background, then the animal, then fiddle with the background a little bit more. In watercolour, I probably would do it in the same way as well. I'd do the background first. Paint around. Yeah. Yeah, I am having to darken lots, but because I've got lots of colours on the top of this, it's not going as bad as it could. It's still staying within the realms of a coloured browny green tree, but I'm just darkening it, so that's sort of working to bring him forward. No. Yeah, the owl's the important thing, isn't it? Because you could almost do a sort of vignette type thing around him, so it's not all about the owl kind of thing. Vignette, yeah, vignette is when you've got like the central thing and then it slowly fades out into nothing. Not a vinaigrette. No. Yeah, I like vignettes. We did. Do you remember when we did the ladybird on the Forget Me Not? That we did that as a vignette, didn't we? The watercolor class. See, I know that these are watercolor pencils, and I've really got to stop myself from thinking, oh, I'll just add some water because I don't want to. I do tend. Do you know what, Jackie? I never put these on Shabapi. The water resistant ones. I think it's because they look identical to the water soluble ones, and I didn't want to confuse people. But if I make it very clear in the title, although we are finding that not everybody reads the lists of description for the products. They just look at the picture, yeah. So it is tricky. Yeah. No. A lot of that about. Mm. Still got a good 20 odd minutes, so do not feel under pressure. Oh, you know, that reminded me of something. I saw a hilarious video of a job interview, and the lady being interviewed, that she was asked the question. She said, and it was like, okay, thank you very much. So, can you perform under pressure? And she went, oh God, I don't know. I'll have a go. And she goes, that pressure rushing down on me. Hilarious. Oh, I remember I went for an interview at a bank, and I really didn't want to because I'm really not very banky. But I can remember them saying I was only about 19, 20, and they said, "So, Mr. Whitehouse, when can you give an example of when you last gave good customer service?" And I, such an arrogant boy, I went, "No." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I always give excellent customer service." This is just me trying to sharpen. You know what, Jackie? I think I ought to bring my pencil sharpener like where I sit. Don't you think that's a good idea instead of having to lunge over everything all the time? But I haven't really. Where I'm set up, you see, I've got my cup of tea here, my microphone here, camera 1 here, camera 2 there, the computer there, elbow room here. There's not a huge amount of space for me to have a desktop sharpener, because the plan is that I do it. Excuse me, I've got hiccups now. The plan is I do it before the lesson starts, but obviously, because we're using a lot of coloured pencil today, it's running out. Yeah. Exactly, I think this is it, but this isn't necessarily how I would always attack it. It just depends on what mood I'm in. But also, I think I deliberately didn't start with the scary bit first. Oh, I've just spent all that time sharpening this, and I just pressed down too hard and broke it. Yeah, I'm having to sort of reaffirm certain lines that I've drawn now. But it's nice that it's a lot softer than I'd do it in watercolour. There are little discs on his grey areas of his wing as well. I do hope you're all enjoying this. It's something different, isn't it? Sometimes I think these sort of pictures, you definitely need to see it on another day, or through a photograph. And I know when if Nick manages to catch up with these, that he can, you know, he always takes about 5 or 6 photos throughout every class. Yeah, so he can judge the progress. But it's different for everybody, isn't it? I mean, I'm really fortunate because as I'm looking at it here, I can also see it on my screen ahead of me, which is what you're seeing. Which helps because it's, you know, the screen that I can see, my big A4 picture is smaller than a postcard, so it's automatically shrunk down. I will say, do not forget your drink. You made it about half an hour ago. Have you had yours, Jackie?
I have.
Does that sound like you need another one?
Yes, I always need more tea. I run on tea.
We do function. This whole business is run on tea. Tea and biscuits. I mean, there's not huge amounts I'm going to do with this. I don't think. And I'm thinking while I'm doing all of this about light against dark. So I want to make sure that there are lighter areas, darker areas, and each one stands out properly. Other areas I might consciously want to sink in and soften. and other bits I won't. Let me see if I can put oh, I'm putting some darker green on the trees now, and that will hopefully help put it back. However, do you remember I used that really interesting blue for the background? I might put a bit of that on instead. You know, like, you know how I like purple shadows and blue shadows and things. I wonder, because for me, and I don't, you can agree with me. It's okay. I'm not after like, oh, this is the best thing you've ever done, Barry. I want to buy it now. If you do, that's lovely. 20 quid. But the all of the colours that we've used today are prevalent in all areas of the picture. You know, the greens and the browns and the black are and the yellows are in the owl and the tree. There is one colour that I've used that is only in the background, and I think that's why the background is jarring a little bit for me, because that blue that I used initially doesn't exist anywhere else. So I'm going to add it in the shadows of the tree, because you know, when we do painting, coloured pencils are no different to painting. That I'm all about colour harmony as well. So I like about light against dark and colour contrast and all of that kind of thing. But equally, colour harmony is really important. And you know, that's how we reduce a palette, and in turn that will create more harmony in a painting, because you know what, every colour is related to every other colour in the picture. But here that hasn't happened yet. But popping this on now has made a big difference to my view, whether it's because I know I've done it. So now the blue is related to both the tree and the background greens. And because it's a greeny blue, I can add a bit more depth if I want, and it'll just look like blue shadow, which you know I love. We did a whole Monday morning hay scene where we painted the whole page bright yellow, and then I added ultramarine shadows on all of it, where obviously where the shadows were needed, and I didn't just cover the whole thing in blue, because that would have been a waste of time painting it yellow. And it made a huge difference. It didn't look like blue, and it was a perfect shadow colour for that picture. So here I've now got to do something very similar to get that harmony. Can you see how just by doing this I've made it feel a little bit more evening, because there's more blue light on the trunks, but also the background seems to have blended in a little bit more with the branches. No, it's and that's having that the same blue that I put on the background on top. And this is what I think is important with art, and you may not do it very often, that it's constant assessing what needs to be done, or how can you problem solve, and to me the last half an hour of a picture is often problem solving. Oh, I need to make those leaves stand out more, or I need to make that whatever stand out even more. So what do I need to add? How do I add depth, or do I need to put some light back into this picture? Because I like to keep it varied for you, because next week, what we're doing next Thursday morning. Ooh, a winter trees in ink. It doesn't really matter which ink, so I'm going to be using acrylic ink, but I am going to be using a straw as well. Well, dangerous or fun? Yeah. If you're a messy person, either don't do it, or wear a pack-a-mac and cover your whole room, because it can potentially be messy, but it's really lovely. Now, I feel my owl's face has enough tone on it, but when I'm looking at the picture, I can't, the screen, I don't know if the camera has bleached it out, or if I need to go a bit darker. So I will go a little bit darker. The shadow on his beak is quite pronounced, isn't it? I think it did need a bit of extra dark. using some brown. You like Mrs. Christmas, Jackie?
I know.
Old Mrs. Kringle is soon gonna jingle the bells that'll tingle all your troubles away. Everybody's waiting for the Jackie with bags, 'cause Christmas is coming again.
Beautiful.
She's got a sleigh full, it's not gonna stay full with stuff that she's dropping at the post office today. Everybody's waiting for the Jackie with bags, 'cause Christmas is coming again. She'll be here. I'm not slaving her away, she loves it. Jackie, you made that noise out loud.
Oh. Okay.
Right, it's 12 o'clock, look at that. I don't think I'm going to do any more. That has made a difference, but I will obviously take a photograph of it. I've really enjoyed that, but do you know what? Putting that blue over the wood of the branches and the tree trunks, to me, has made a massive, massive, massive difference to the visuals. I've now got harmony and everything, and my bird stands out just enough. I could, if I wanted, and I will, just to show you, I'll use a little bit of that blue in the shadow of the owl to just uniform it a little bit more. And that will add even more depth. Yes, right. I think that's my cue to stop faffing. I do look forward to seeing. I always love seeing your work. I might not always comment, but it's just because I'm usually in between classes when I see them come up. But I do see them all. I think they're all brilliant. You're really, really good at this arting. Particularly under the circumstances, as I say, I'm seeing loads and loads of artists, professional artists, who are totally struggling under this lockdown. So the fact that you're still able to produce is lovely, because you could just, you got a couple, yeah, oh yeah. 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 This is it. I said to an artist on the art group, I think I only belong to the one now, who said, I just can't do it I just don't feel like painting. What should I try instead? And I said, try having a rest, because don't force yourself, because you'll only get annoyed. And it's the same with all of you lovely students. If you don't feel like painting and you've signed up to a lesson, just watch the lesson. Don't paint during the lesson, because you'll only get yourself wound up and annoyed that it's not looking like mine, or it's not looking like you think you can do normally. There is no shame in just having a bit of a break and just watching the lesson, in order for you to do at a later point when you feel more inspired, because we're not in a very inspiring environment at the moment in so many ways. So it's okay. It's okay to do nothing. It's okay to just sit back and watch. There's nothing wrong with it. So don't beat yourself up about it all. I'm just zooming in. I'm not zooming in. I'm actually just bringing the picture up to you, so you can see what the owl looks like, slightly closer detail. Because obviously, when it's further away, it bleaches out. But you can see I've added a bit of that blue shadow on the bird, and that works really well. Okay, so I will post a photograph of this. I've really enjoyed doing this, and I want to do it again in watercolours or whatever. But I've got hands this afternoon, so flesh tones in watercolour, which is going to be really nice to do. So thank you so much for joining me today. I've really enjoyed it, and it's nice to have some other faces. Well, I say faces, other students that we don't necessarily have all the time with us as well, and that's lovely. So as I say, next week is Wintry Trees with Ink, and we'll try and make it as fun and creative as possible, and we'll see how we get on. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend, because that's the nearest thing, and it's Thursday today, so the next thing to us is the weekend. So have a lovely time, stay safe, behave yourselves, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.